I think the question is if these phones were too expensive. We've talked about this before. The screen on the phone, I think, was the focus of the Nikkei article. This OLED screen that is just much more a big component of the price, and whether this phone has rolled out globally. I mean, anecdotally, a lot of people. I have the iPhone 10, but a lot of people I know opted for the 8 because it was cheaper. They like the format. What I think was most interesting was that they might not keep making them after September in this fashion, which would mean a failure of the iPhone, especially if it was, they hit below. I think 20 million was the estimate in the Nikkei article versus 40 million phones sold. Still a very big seller of phones, but not what they expected, and not the turnaround, like the new, fresh look that they had wanted.
And Kara, I guess we got to point out Nikkei and the supply chain rumors in general have been a really poor indicator of what Apple's going to report, or even what's going on at large in iPhone production. And Tim Cook has even warned, hey, taking a look at one little sliver of information doesn't necessarily give you a broad look at what's happening in the iPhone ecosystem. I look back a couple of years ago when the 6S came out, the stock went from 120 to under $100 a share on these kinds of rumors, didn't recover until July of the next year. It turns out wasn't so much to go on.
Absolutely. That's the problem with Apple. There's this whole bunch of suppliers that they get affected by whatever Apple does, and it cascades from one to the other. And so there's obvious nervousness on behalf of these suppliers in terms of what's going to happen and what Apple's going to do. Everything from what screen they're going to use to what components they're going to use to what features they're going to have happen. And so you're going to have to wait and see what Apple says about these things. But the nervousness about this phone, I think, is very obvious to a lot of people, and they're not sure what to think about it. And so you're probably seeing an overreaction here. And at the same time, I think people are watching very carefully to see if this phone does as well as Apple had hoped it would do.
Kara, I realize there's a lot of focus here on the iPhone 10, and for good reason, especially when you do look at that hefty price point. But if people are opting to buy 8s instead of 10s, doesn't that sort of get to the point where it's really the focus should be on margins rather than which device?
Yeah, I agree. I think Apple's, had some very strong products this year, and the question is which direction they're going in. Obviously, some of their accessories have been very popular. The watches, as we've talked about before, have been not as popular. But I think the focus is this need for Apple to keep innovating and introduce new concepts and new things. And I think with the price point, now they've done this before by removing things from laptops and things like that they thought people wouldn't get used to, and people do get used to. I mean, I think it's just the shift in the design of the phone, which has probably got a lot of people focused really heavily on this particular phone and whether people are going to shift over from their old paradigm to their new one. With Apple, they usually do. They usually do because people follow Apple products. And so we'll see. We'll have to see.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.